All right, let's call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Regular meeting number 54, if you can believe it. We have a quorum. Nancy, you have attendance?
I do.
Okay, so we have two sets of minutes to approve. The first one being November 2nd. Any comments, corrections? Let's see any.
I'll move approval of the minutes, so it's on the table.
Moved by Bob, seconded by
Jesse.
Lois. Thank you very much. All right, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Dr. Bryant, can we get some sound from you? That would be helpful. Are you in favor of the approval of the minutes?
Yes.
Thank you. Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, then we've got minutes of November 9th. Corrections from anyone?
Mr. Chair,
Patrick?
thank you. Just a quick question. Did we ever confirm that the vote was taken on the for the Prosser? I'm sorry, for the McMahon Winterberry, that we were going to use the wood facade as opposed to the brick? I think there were some questions about whether or not that vote was confirmed.
Right. I think the minutes correctly reflect what happened. And
Okay.
For your information, we never did take a vote on it. I intend on doing that tonight.
Okay, great. Okay.
But thank you.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
So do we have a motion to approve by Lois? Second from
I'll second.
Patrick. Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Abstentions? All right, we are unanimously approved on that. Thank you. All right, so let's go to new business and let's go to our architectural team. We've got Deanna and Yugon and Richard. Okay, got to look around the screen for you. It's all yours.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. So I'll start the discussion, and I think I'm going to defer to Yugon when we get to the appropriate item. I guess I have 1, 2, 3, 4 items on my agenda. One of which is to ask for the committee's authorization to proceed with CDs. I hope by the end of the committee meeting we can get that authorization, is because we have very little time left to finish all the CDs. Remember, our target is to finish them by January. So hopefully by the end of the committee meeting, you can take action on that. The second, Mark, you did mention, which is a decision on the wood versus brick alternatives for the McMahon Library facade that is facing Blue Hills Avenue. And Yugon is prepared to discuss that, remind what we showed to the committee previously. The other 2 remaining items I want to talk about is to give you an update on our inland wetlands meeting and our anticipated planning and zoning meeting, which happens to be tomorrow. And then a follow-up, the 4th item is the follow-up to one of the items that was brought up at inland wetlands, which is the service drive. Should we keep the service drive or not to serve the dumpsters on this site? So I want to talk about that too. So I would like to maybe ask Yugon to talk about the wood versus brick alternatives. Yugon, I don't know if you're prepared to share your screen and remind the committee of what the presentation was a few meetings ago.
Yes, I can share my screen. You have to excuse me, I might be a little bit hard to hear. I just had 2 crowns put in, so I'm rushing back from the dentist so that we could talk about this. So excuse me if I mumble a little bit.
All right, you sound loud and clear, but if you start to slur your words, I'll.
Yeah,
let
or
you know.
if you see drooling that happens down here, I know that this is being recorded, but maybe for posterity, you know. Okay, so I'll share the screen so that, you know, everyone can kind of refresh where we started. To the left is the kind of brick facade. To the right is a rendering with the clapboard style wood product that we are suggesting for a facade alternative. So hopefully everyone can see it on your screens. I can zoom in if you'd like. But you know, I think there's quite a difference between the two, just from an experiential and material standpoint. Here's another view of the facades, right? The community room would be wrapped in the same material, as well as the bench that is here included into the facade. This is a more kind of zoomed in view of the entry sequence. Again, I think, you know, we were very happy. You know, as you all know, we proposed wood initially as the material for the facade itself before it got changed to brick for SD. This is the wood product, I think, that we kind of shared with you before. It is a wood veneer on top of a bake-like core. And so it's a kind of, it's laminated to that veneer, and it provides kind of a very kind of maintenance-free. Really, I talked to the rep. It's really kind of washing with soap, you know, maybe pressure washing once a year. But you know, there's limited fading, and it's very resistant. And this project here, we have a list of projects in the New England region that are, you know, range between different years. But this project here is right around the corner from our office. It's about 15 or 16 years old. And I went there just yesterday again to look at more closely, and it's in very, very good condition. And so you can see here some shots that aren't Photoshopped for the manufacturer's website, or real shots. And so you can really see the material. It's, you know, it has very limited kind of aging over this 15-year period. So I think it's very appropriate material, very durable, would kind of stand the test of time. And, you know, just for me personally, you know, I know brick one time was a material for institutional buildings or community buildings. I personally think wood should be now because of all the kind of things associated with wood, the idea of sustainability and environment. But, you know, this product, I think, finds a good balance between not burdening the town with maintenance that some kind of more natural products would, but has this kind of warm character and is it has this wood facade that kind of presents itself to the community. So with there, I'll turn it back to everyone at the committee to ask any questions or.
Oh, I do think we should remind the committee that Downs has estimated both it's a manufactured product, the wood veneer with a backup versus brick. And I believe the costs, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but I believe the costs are comparable. There's no significant difference in cost.
Can we hear from Downs on that so we understand the cost difference?
Yes, Mark, I can comment on that.
Thanks, Tom.
Richard is correct. We actually, the one thing we did update on the budget summary was we actually added an additional alternate for the siding versus the brick. It is a $14,000 add to go to the brick. So we've included the wood in the base number. It looks to be about 870 square feet, plus or minus. So yes, I can confirm that it is comparable in cost. So really it comes down to what the committee wants to see.
So you're saying the brick is more than the wood?
That's correct. The brick is more.
Okay, questions from the committee, or would somebody like to make a motion for discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Patrick, I see your hand up. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'll make a motion that the building committee consider doing the Faith McMahon Wintonberry Library with the wood veneer, the HPL wood veneer, as opposed to the brick.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jesse. Okay. Discussion? See any other hands? So I will call for a
Yeah.
vote.
Well, I'm sorry. Just one question
Sure, go ahead, Jesse.
that on the rear side of Bloomfield High School, we have wood. And I believe that renovation was done somewhere around 2011 or so, 2012. And the wood is actually starting to fade. I'm wondering how this wood is, or what the grade of this wood is in comparison to that. Because I know you all did work on Bloomfield High School as well.
Yes, you're correct. TSKP Studio did the high school renovation. My partner Randall Luther, who I think is here this evening, I can go out and ask him. I did not participate in that project. I don't know if it was a manufactured wood or whether it was a genuine wood. So let me step out of the room and see if I can grab Randall and maybe he can shed some light on that. So stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Thank
You
you.
know, while Richard is getting Randall, Jesse, that's one of the reasons why I picked, I suggested this particular product. There are kind of obviously natural wood that could be selected, but it does fade and it requires annual maintenance. That's much more significant than this. It's really quite interesting. Like when I went to this building project again, even when you look underneath the layers, the color tone is basically the same. So the kind of protective finish on this panel protects it from the UV fading that typically occurs. So what I'm not sure again what was on the high school, but I have used natural wood on other products and it does experience that fading and then does have that need for maintenance. And so that's why we suggest this one to kind of address those two, I think, very warranted concerns that any client would have.
I gotta say, I mean, it's beautiful. I like the wood, more natural wood, especially, I mean, we're in Bloomfield and whatnot. It's beautiful. It's just, that's a concern.
Yeah, of course.
Lois?
Maintenance is a concern for me as well. I think 15 or 20 years seems like a long time, but if brick is not going to require any maintenance for 50 years, we're better off. And I don't have the attachment to the wood that some of you do.
Okay, I'm back. So
Okay, go ahead, Richard, and then we'll let Ava speak.
Okay, sorry for this brief interruption, but I did step out and ask Randall Luther to join the meeting. He was here this evening, or is here this evening, in response to Jesse's question. He was the principal in charge of the Bloomfield High School project, and I asked him about the wood. I believe, Jesse, you said that was on the back of the building and that it's fading. And Randall?
Yeah, so that's actual wood. It's a white oak with, and I can't remember the particular finish we put on the wood. It's covered, so we were more comfortable using a natural product there. But I'm not surprised that after 10 or 11 years, parts of it are starting to show a little bit of weathering. I mean, it'll last, 30, 40, 50 years, but the color will discolor over time unless you refinish it. And in that case, it also faces on the north side, so it gets less UV than you might see, on the other exposures. So it had a lot of things going for it that made wood, a reasonable choice that'll probably hold up pretty well. But
That's not the same as what we're talking about for McMahon,
Yeah, not
which
at
is a
all.
manufactured product.
Yeah, I have another project. In fact, I'm working with UGON on, and because of the concerns with natural wood, we went to the product that you see before you. That in that particular community, they thought that that was what they were looking for, and they liked the appearance and the longevity and the maintenance aspects of it.
So hopefully that answers Jesse's question.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
I think
Eva?
Okay.
Eva?
Yeah, thanks. I would point out that the brick at Prosser is really not in good condition, along with everything else there. I'm not aware that it has ever been repointed, which is something that it has needed. Part of the reason that we're seeing all the leaks is that the brick did require maintenance. And it's one of the things that, like many other things in town, have been put off. So I think this comes down more to a question of preference. I don't think that the brick is maintenance free at all. Thanks.
Okay. Other comments or questions? We have a motion to go with the wood on the table. Don't see any other hands. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No,
Anybody abstaining? Chair votes aye, so the motion passes. And I thank you for that. Hugon, thank you for going over that again with us.
First,
Richard, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, you can stop sharing, and I appreciate your participating in it. I know you have a tight timetable on other things too. So unless there's other things for you, Gon, I would like to ask him if he could be, or ask the committee if he could be dismissed. I think the remainder of my agenda really doesn't require his participation. You're welcome to stay, Hugon, but it's up to you.
well, I can't hold the drool from my mouth, so maybe I can step away.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to see everyone. I'll talk soon.
Same here, thanks.
Okay.
Good luck getting the feeling back in your mouth.
I know, it's really funny. Okay, bye.
All right, the third item on my agenda is to give you an update on the inland wetlands meeting that we had yesterday. And I know we have a planning and zoning meeting tomorrow, which we'll attend. I thought the inland wetlands meeting went well. There was a lot of stuff that was discussed, and a lot of it was very technical. And I don't know how many members of this committee listened in on that meeting, but it seemed to me that the comments and questions from the commission were probably in 7 or 8 categories, one of which was drainage issues, all of which are addressable by our engineers, SLR, the site engineers. But they had comments about confirming the sizes of existing pipes. These are storm pipes that we are going to be reusing, so SLR will reconfirm that. There was a suggestion by a couple of the commission members to use a grass channel, an open channel for drainage flow rather than enclosing them in pipes. One commission members asked about reducing the number of cars, but quite frankly, that's not a wetlands issue. That's a planning and zoning issue. And I told them that we had a traffic study for that. But wetlands objective is to try to reduce impact on the wetlands area and on stormwater. Another focus of discussion was the bridge. There were a lot of questions about how are we going to be using any de-icing material, and is that going to be environmentally friendly? Will it have an impact on the wetlands? And so we have subsequently followed up with some material that is environmentally friendly to the commission's further consideration. There was a lot of discussion about the service drive that goes around the Prosser Library on the western side of the building, whose purpose is to service the dumpsters. And getting trucks underneath the bridge to serve the dumpsters requires a cut in the earth, a lowering of the topography over the MDC sewer right of way. As you may recall, we do have an application into the MDC to encroach on its right of way. But there was a lot of questions about the need for that service drive. Subsequent to yesterday's inland wetlands meeting, we did have a Zoom meeting earlier today with Jonathan Tisi, he's the town engineer, with Dan Carter, he's responsible for public works, and Glenn Garrity, who is responsible for town facility maintenance. And we did talk about the service drive and whether or not we could place the dumpsters on the Riley parcel. And I think I can say confidently that the consensus was that we could put the dumpsters from their perspective on the Riley lumber parcel. So I think it boils down to the committee, to library staff, whether or not that would be workable for them. We did talk about the possibility of having a small vehicle that, or even a pickup truck that could bring trash over to the Riley dumpsters, and then the dumpsters could be emptied on a less frequent basis rather than what they're doing right now on the Prosser site. So I leave that to the committee's discussion, but other things, I just want to brief you on our talk with the inland wetlands. There were some suggestions for alternative plantings, some tree, different species, and so Richter and Segan, our landscape architect, will do that. There are questions about construction sequence. They're concerned about erosion during construction. They wanted to know what the proposed sequence of construction is, so I asked Downs to help us respond to that. They asked questions about snow removal. Where will snow be stockpiled? This is in addition to the de-icing question. And they also asked about, do we need to go to the Army Corps of Engineers? The answer to that question is no. The Army Corps involvement is triggered by the number of square footage of disruption of inland wetlands, which we're not doing. And it also, the trigger is whether or not we're doing work on navigable waterways. And Washbrook is not a navigable waterway. So, but we will formally respond to the question to inland wetlands. Bottom line, inland wetlands was having a public hearing for this project as part of our presentation. That public hearing is being continued to the next inland wetlands meeting, regularly scheduled meeting, which will be December the 12th. Our planning and zoning meeting will be tomorrow. I don't expect that they're going to take any action because they typically will look for a decision from inland wetlands before they act on planning and zoning issues. So I suspect after we make our presentation on the project, which again will involve TSKP, Richter and Segan, and SLR, along with the traffic report that was prepared by SLR, I expect planning and zoning will table the issue. They will continue the public hearing until its December meeting. So that's an update. Any thoughts about the service drive?
Yeah, do we have any objections to having TSKP proceed with locating the dumpster on the Riley property? Thoughts? Any objections?
I've got a couple questions.
Yep. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, Mark. If we locate the dumpsters on the Riley property, does that mean we can eliminate the service drive?
Yes.
Okay, now, how does that impact the issue with the MDC right away?
It actually improves the situation because the only thing that we would need to do was to maintain the topography as it is. We do need to temporarily excavate in order to put our footings that are adjacent to the right of way. But that's it. We would refill after the excavation for the footings, and then we could restore the topography as it is currently.
Okay. All right, and if we put the dumpsters on the Riley site, what's gonna have to be done on the Riley site in order to do that?
Well, we did talk about that with Jonathan Tisi. He wants to continue the discussion. He wants more details because the elevation on the Riley parcel is lower. We may need to raise a small area in order to accommodate a truck and place the dumpsters at an elevation that's above the floodplain. The floodplain right now is at elevation 115. That's one of the reasons we place the dumpsters at the high end of the Prosser site in the northeast corner. We would have to find a spot similar to that on the Riley parcel, so there needs to be some adjustment in topography. We need to adjust the topography anyway, based upon the engineer's discussions about other aspects of the Riley parcel. And there was going to be some adjustment in the retention basin sizes, smaller actually, based upon our initial review of the Riley parcel. If we lower the topography as Jonathan TC recommended, and anyway, I'm getting off track. We do need to have a further discussion with engineering to make sure that the dumpster location is appropriately situated at the right elevation.
All right, that's my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'm gonna say we have.
Lois has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lois, go ahead.
I think it sounds like a very good idea for a couple reasons. One is that as the garbage stream changes, the requirements for containers may also change. Hopefully recycling will have an impact, and there may be need for different types of containers. So you have much more flexibility if you're at the Riley site. The only thing that's important, I think, is to make sure that they're locked, because they will be at some distance, and the general public may have a feeling that they should use them for household waste. So, but locks are easy.
That's a very good point, Lois. We didn't talk about that with engineering, but I think that's a good practical solution. I should add, though, that there would be a small container on the Prosser site that could be wheeled over or brought over in a pickup truck, or even a small electric vehicle that could be parked on the Prosser site.
And Lois, I do believe we do lock our dumpsters. I remember this being an issue several years ago with the previous public works director in All American Waste. And I think there are locks on all the facilities in town.
Thank you.
I have one
Question.
other comment.
Go ahead,
If I
Nancy.
might. It's on the inland wetlands. I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, but the map amendment was approved Monday night. Is that correct?
Yes, there were two applications before inland wetlands, one of which was the map amendment. Just as a reminder to the committee, mapping that is on record in the town is typically based upon aerial photogrammetry. It's based upon gross information about where the wetlands probably are in town. And inland wetlands commissions usually require that the site be flagged for wetlands by soil scientists. And then that survey will actually define the wetlands much more accurately on the parcel. Then you have to submit to inland wetlands to actually make a formal amendment to the wetlands maps. So that was one of the applications, and the Wetlands Commission did approve unanimously that amendment. So that was part of the step. Thank you for reminding me, Nancy. It's the second application, which is the wetlands permit. for the project was continued to December.
Other hands? I want to thank the Public Works Department for being a real team player on this. I mean, they stepped up and realized how big it, an item this was for us design-wise, to put the dumpster over on the Riley property. I mean, eliminating that service drive saves us an awkward situation, saves us some dollars, more hard surface, which inland wetlands is very pleased about. They will be very pleased when they see that disappearing. I think removing the dumpster from, up close to Tungus Ave is huge. It's just huge. I think it opens up the front of the building. So there's so many pluses about this. So if there's no more comments, I'm going to just say, we have consensus to have TSKP proceed with this design change. I don't think we need a vote on it. But thank you, Richard, for that. And the town engineer too is a real help. Real town engineers put a lot of thought into this and other drainage issues as well, all favorable to the project and the budget. So he's been Jonathan Thies, he's been very, very helpful as well. Richard, what else?
So I think that brings me to the end of my agenda. The service road was the last issue I wanted to discuss, so we touched base on that. So there's only one item, and that's authorization to proceed. I'll wait until the appropriate time in this meeting for the committee to decide that issue.
Great. Yeah, I think we'll hear from our construction manager as well on
Thank you.
that. Questions for Richard? Okay, let's go to our construction manager. Who's going to speak first? Tom?
Yeah, Mark,
Go on you.
I think I'll take it from here. So we're right now our update is pretty similar to last week's. We are tracking the progress with the schedule, so we are excited that there are meetings with inland wetlands, with zoning, and the process is really starting to take shape, and we're really starting to hit a lot of the milestones here to bring this project to reality. So things are moving pretty well from our perspective. We didn't make really any adjustments to the budget that we handed out and presented last week. But if I can share the screen, I do want to just kind of touch on the open items list again, because I think it's important. Is that good?
That's good.
Okay.
Well, if you can zoom in a little bit, I think it'd be helpful.
Okay. Whoop. Too much?
That's good.
How's that? So I just want to touch on the open items. There were a couple questions about that. And I think most, if not all of these open items are items that don't necessarily affect the program, the square footage, the overall intent of the building. It's just things that we pick up during our constructability review, as we do in every phase as the construction manager, to try to make sure that we're building the most cost efficient, and the best project in sequence of construction. Also keeping in mind the overall budget. So we have 5 what we considered open items, because there needed to be further discussion with people, departments, things that were kind of outside of the immediate team, meaning ourselves, Colliers and TSKP, because we needed input from the town engineer, we needed input from MDC, we needed input from Eversource. So I think most, if not all, of these items are moving in a very positive direction. We are continuing to work to reduce and eliminate the storm retention basins at both McMahon and Prosser. And these things, I think, we're going to take fruition in the construction documents. And we are eager to see TSKP gain approval to move into the CD document phase, because that is critical to the schedule. I think we're going to be hitting a very, very good bidding market. Subcontractors are looking for work. I think you guys are going to hit it right at the right time. So I think that's also important. It's kind of like an intangible that I think we should be looking towards to get this job out to bid as soon as possible and moving along with the CD documents, will help that. We talked about the dumpster. That ultimately is going to reduce your budget. Sounds like that's moving forward. That's a good thing. The delivery drop-off area, something that we haven't really touched on too much in the last week or tonight, but we're prepared to talk about that in a little bit more detail. But that is also something that can reduce the cost and still meet the intent of having the curb cut, have the drop-off area, have it be safe, accessible, the whole 9 yards. Also, it sounds like the electric service at the Riley parking lot is going to be resolved as well. Looks like we will only need one service, but these things are taking time to go through the process. So ultimately, these things will now become part of the construction documents phase and ultimately be part of the construction documents estimate, which is what we will compare the bids to, come January, February. The one thing also too, Mark, I'd like to add, if there are no questions, the one thing we did update was we had Ryan just go ahead and add the brick veneer, substitute the brick veneer at the addition in lieu of the siding. So I know we may want to have a little bit more touch base, a little more detail on the alternates, whether or not to accept or incorporate into the CD phase, which is coming up. But it sounds like we've just gained approval to, I guess, essentially to not accept this alternate, right? We're going to maintain the siding, which was already in the base number. So I think this alternate now can probably come off the list. And that's really it, unless Kyle or Scott wants to comment. I can go through some of the email questions. Mark, if you think that's appropriate, I can kind of go through some of those. Elizabeth had an email this morning. I think most of those we could probably talk through.
Yeah, I think that would be good. A couple things while you have that up. The alternates, we have not had a good discussion about alternates yet. These have really come from various different sources, our design team, the CM, some things have been thrown out, and the committee will need to, comprehensively look at all of these alternates in a timely fashion, because the CDs are presumably going to be moving along here, and we're going out to bid at the end of December. So, I want to set aside, make sure we target a future meeting here, and maybe even be our next regular meeting. I'll defer to Tom and company to let us know when, what that timing really is, and, along with TSKP, so we can pin these things down, and because it's not simply a matter of putting them in or taking them out. There's drawings and specifications involved with all of them. And I think we also want to limit the number of them to some extent. There can be such a thing as too many alternates. The bidders, it's bad for the bidding environment, but I don't know that we're there even close to that yet. But at any rate, I just want to assure everybody on the committee that I'm aware we have not gone through these things. They've appeared, okay, and the design team needs our input on this. So hopefully we'll do that at a meeting soon. And the other thing, Tom, before you go into the questions, just going back to the open items, I learned today from our town engineer that, well, a couple things regarding electric service at the Riley property. Number one, he brought it to our attention that planning and zoning will require us to combine the sites. because we are relying on the Riley property for necessary parking, which cannot occur on a separate site. However, town engineer said it is extremely simple administrative process to combine the sites. And it shouldn't take any time or money necessarily to do that. It's really administrative in nature. So, I think we should move forward with that. It's going to be necessary, like I said, for planning and zoning. So that the whole discussion around electric service was based on, or how we're going to handle electric service was based on having separate sites. So we will not have separate sites. The other thing he brought up was the site lighting over on the Riley side, or for that matter, anywhere on the site, can be provided by Eversource. They can provide the fixtures. And the cost of those fixtures are then built into the electric service costs going forward. I know that many homeowner associations, condominiums do that. And then they don't ever have to worry about maintenance or, on the fixtures. So that's going to save us, that would save us quite a bit of money. We still have to run the conduit and get power to these things, but I think that's under consideration right now as we, we haven't seen a site lighting plan yet. So as that goes forward, that will be under consideration as well. All right, I'm gonna, Bob, you have your hand up in relation to this? I know Tom has some more to.
Yeah. Yeah, I just had my hand up for the alternates. I just wanted to point out that there's a math error there and that they totaled everything. And there's an alternate there. Has exterior brick veneer on the garage and exterior stone veneer as the garage. It's either one or the other. It's not both. And the total of 5216 includes both. If you take the more expensive one off the table, then you have a savings of $137,138. If you take the $100,000 one off the table, then your savings is $95,726. So either way, the alternative subtotal comes out to where we save money, not spend money.
All right, thanks, Bob, for pointing that out. I mean, the total right now is just kind of a reference, because in the end,
Right.
we'll be picking and choosing some combination of them.
Yep. I
Including.
just wanted to point that out.
So.
Bob,
Yeah.
Bob, are you on you're on page 4 right here?
Yep.
And which line is the,
The 5216 adds
Oh.
in both the 100,942 and the 142,354.
yeah, I bet you when Ryan added in the row there, maybe something happened. Okay.
Yeah, you counted both P5 and P6.
Oh,
We'd only
yeah.
be taking one of them.
Yep.
That's all.
Damn it. Yeah,
If any,
Right.
if any.
right. Okay, sorry about that.
That's all right. Nobody's perfect, including me.
You earned your feet today, Bob.
All right, Tom, you want to hit some of
Yeah.
those questions?
Yeah, I can touch on Elizabeth's.
Yeah, if you can do,
email.
whatever's quick, because we can also, issue answers in writing to her unless there's some specific.
Okay, I think I actually had Scott queue up the delivery drop-off drawing if we want to take a look at that real quick. Explain the delivery drop-off, which was on the open items list. And that is right on the main road where you currently have a drop-off. It was really to reconfigure that, Elizabeth, a little bit, which ultimately created some additional constructability issues with on-site utilities, the tree. So you see that turnoff right there, that pull-off? That's where that is. And you see how much work we're going to be doing in Tungus Avenue. We'd actually have to push traffic over. We'd have to put some barriers out. Obviously,
I think there's a hydrant in the way too. Sorry, Tom.
yeah, obviously we'd want to put in the new sidewalk, put the new curb cut. just, the extent of actually moving the location. That's what we're talking about there. So I hope that clarifies that.
Tom, let me stop you there, Tom,
Sorry.
on that thing. When I talked to the town engineer today, he had some definite thoughts about that drop-off area, because I guess it was originally a handicap accessible drop-off. It no longer meets those requirements. And between trying to reconfigure and have it meet those requirements, or whether it simply becomes a delivery drop-off area and not, we don't need handicap accessible anything there, okay?
Right.
It's not required because we have it elsewhere. So he pointed out that, we have options there because it's not required for handicap accessibility, that it could even be straightened out and eliminated, which would make the beautification people very happy about moving it away from the tree, the one large oak tree to remain. So I think that needs some further investigation. And so I want to thank the town engineer for bringing that to our attention today.
The town engineer, although also indicated though that might create additional problems with the state, because it was originally approved as a handicap parking, so it might require state approval to eliminate it, even though it doesn't meet current requirements.
Well, my understanding was he thought it was a problem that they would never allow this to happen now so close to the intersection. That the drop off itself was inappropriate being so close to the intersection, and that was the problem. But I think it all needs a little more review, and also to hear from library staff on the necessity of it also, as we go forward. So I think, that has to be looked at a little bit more.
Yeah, so that's actually a pretty good segue into another reason why it's kind of considered an open item, because as the design developed, that's something that kind of piqued our interest. And obviously, when you start talking about something like this and you get other people's input, then, you kind of flush out some other potential issues. And really what we're trying to do is uncover as many potential issues as possible before we start construction. So that's actually probably a good thing it landed on the open items list. The next item was the electric service, which I think we touched on, and that's really heading in the right direction. And regardless of where the service is, if we need the EV charging stations over in the Riley parking lot, then it's not going to affect that at all. Just got to figure out how to get the power over there. We just touched on the open items question. The ceiling in parking 007. So that is actually the ceiling in the garage area. Okay, right now it is scheduled to be an acoustical type ceiling underneath the garage. So that's where parking 007 is. The range and the hood in the kitchen, Elizabeth, you are correct. We did have $850 in the estimate that should have been brought to the alternate. So that is that can be adjusted in the CD phase. The progress photos with staffing. A lot of what we do on our estimates is we have templates, so we make sure that we ask ourselves questions as we're doing the estimate, and we make sure we have scope covered. That particular scope is going to be covered by the staff, Downs's staff, to take progress photos, which you will have access to vis-a-vis our Procore platform. So that's a simple one that we'll take care of. Second, cleaning after FF&E is excluded. Again, another kind of checklist thing for us. Typically, we do a final cleaning prior to the turnover of the furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And then once that is turned over, essentially the owner has accepted the building for its intended use, and the town would then begin to maintain and clean the area. The library collection shelving, just another note signifying that any library shelving that is movable would be included in the FF&E portion of the budget. Anything that is fixed would be part of our scope of work, which would be furnished and installed typically by the millwork subcontractor. The exterior building sign, actually, this is a good one. So I think we assume that the existing sign is going to remain. And we currently don't have a new exterior sign in the estimate. So maybe this should land on an open items list, Mark, and Richard, to possibly talk about. Maybe it's already in the works. And that's something that evolves throughout the course of the design. So yeah, good point. We've got to address that. The residential appliances, looks like you're looking for an additional refrigerator. So, you know, as the design evolves, we're going to eliminate the range, move that to the alternate, and then add potentially another refrigerator. So another good comment there. Is all tech included? Well, we identified that actual computers, iPads, and that type of stuff is currently not in the hard construction costs or the soft costs. So that would need to be addressed. The AV budget is included. Furniture, there is a $900,000 line item for furniture, correct? Or is it 9 or 950? But there is a budget for furniture. I'd have to defer to TSKP if you're looking for a little more specifics on what that furniture is. I do remember, Richard, there was a presentation at some point with a furniture layout, right? So there's a start of that design, but certainly that will take shape in the coming months.
Right, and so if I could comment on that, yes, you're right, and we did ask our Jeanette O'Connell, who's been working with during the programming and layout of spaces and was illustrating the furniture in the rooms just to make sure the test fits worked. She had recommended an adjustment in the furniture budget, and I believe what Downs is carrying is the adjusted budget.
Right, yeah, we added a little bit to it, yep. The wood facade, we addressed tonight. The next item, I was confused a little bit, Elizabeth. Why is the oven an additional open item? I wasn't sure what that meant. Are you referring
back to the open items list? Has it been moved from there?
You're talking about the range?
Yes.
Yeah, that's an alternate. So that should not be considered an open item. That's an alternate, which sounds like is gonna get discussed further in a coming meeting. Which kind of moves right into the next item where, you know, the alternates, you're questioning the open items and the alternates list. So it sounds like we're gonna have some future discussions at a meeting to really fine tune and decide which alternates we want to truly make an alternate. That would be incorporated in the design and then ultimately be part of the bid specifications. We touched on the dumpster and the photovoltaic system is in the job. And I think Lois might have actually had a question on that too, that Nancy, I think, responded to.
And I'm
as
happy to
well.
repeat it for the rest of the committee. The photovoltaics originally were going to be part of the project cost as a lease purchase. The bond attorney advised us that was not possible under the terms of different IRS rulings. So then it was going to be an outright purchase. That had carried a pretty steep price. So we had some conversations with some consultants and we determined that we could do what's called a purchase power agreement. We're getting ready to open bids in 2 weeks for using a purchase power agreement for 330 Park. So we'll have some experience with it. And the way a purchase power agreement works is the person will provide the design to a group of bidders, the design of the building, because the building is being designed to structurally be able to handle the panels on the roof. And then they will submit a proposal. We'll enter into this purchase power agreement. They will be responsible for installing the panels on the roof. And essentially, the town will buy the power that is generated from those panels from the owner of the panels. So going forward, instead of paying an electric bill on a monthly basis, the town would be paying the purchase power agreement in lieu of an electricity bill. So the timing is all kind of, it's still in flux. We don't have construction documents yet. And in my conversations with the consultant who's working with us on 330 Park, there really needed to be the construction documents in place before we would go out to bid. And then, of course, we would have to coordinate with Downs and the construction folks about the installation, because we would want the installation at the time of roof installation, so we don't have to have roof penetrations after the roof has been installed.
Yep, and we'll
We have
coordinate.
a couple
every
questions
step.
here. I'm gonna let them in right now, Tom.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Davis, welcome.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. I'll be very brief. I have to run to a meeting, but I wanted to just give a 30-second update. The council met on Monday and voted to refer the lease for the swing space to the TPZ. So very happy about that. And then secondly, there were a number of council members who wanted to see a report with respect to the locations that were reviewed for the swing space that did not make the list, that weren't final. So I think we're looking to get maybe a chart that shows why they weren't selected and what the costs were, so that folks are comfortable that we're going in the right direction, because there were some concerns or comments about the Winterberry Mall and some of the information that we received from other tenants in the mall. So it would be helpful if we could get a report just outlining why those sites that were reviewed did not make the final cut.
We will gladly provide that.
All right, thank you. And I have to run, so thank you for allowing me.
Thanks for being with us.
Okay.
Lois?
Just to go back to the photovoltaic piece for a minute, how does that work with the commissioning agent? I was reading all of those proposals. Does the commissioning agent take responsibility to make sure that the photovoltaic system is working with the rest of the building, or is that something that the people who own that system will have to do?
That's a good question that I don't know the answer to, Lois.
Yeah, well, I think we'll have to look into that, whether that's under their purview or not.
I was interested that none of the three mentioned photovoltaics in their proposals in the quick scan that I did.
We can also bring our lead consultant in on that as well, for an opinion.
If I could also mention, I mean, one of the reasons that wasn't mentioned is because right now that's not part of the drawings. So they're looking at the drawings and the scope of work that is reflected in the drawings. So, we can certainly add that to them, but, a lot of that will depend on the timing.
Okay, yeah, we'll be talking more about that when we get to you, Chip. Next is Elizabeth.
So when all is said and done, will that fall under the library's budget moving forward, or is that Public Works? How would that work?
It would be in lieu of the electricity bill that you pay, you would pay that. So yes, it would be part of the library's budget, just like the utility bills are based on the occupants of the buildings that the utility is located in.
I also had another question as related to LEED. I know that we had spoken about potentially making it so if we wanted to add more EV spaces down the road, we would have the infrastructure to do so. Is that part of this, or are we only doing 2 at each location?
I think that's yet to be determined. we're waiting for input from Public Works on the needs of these EV stations. They're changing, they're not the same stations that have been installed to date in town. They have different requirements. So I think when we get that information, we can make a decision on whether it makes sense to, if it's adding some conduit or, whatever it takes to expand for the future. Because I think Public Works has an eye on that as well, not only just providing them, but what is the future going to bring in terms of quantity. I think there's a long-term goal for a percentage, what the state is looking for, and others that have grant money possibly. So good question. Bob Berman.
Thank you.
Bob's
Thank
now.
you. I can address the issue of who takes care of the solar panels under a PPA agreement because I've been involved in one already. The owner of the panels has the responsibility for maintenance and replacing if one goes bad or whatever happens with the panels, as long as they still own it. Usually the PPA agreement is for 25 or 30 years. At the end of that time frame, the user can buy them for $1. So that's generally how that whole process works. It takes the onus off Public Works having to worry about something goes wrong with the panels or one is damaged. So it means it's a lot easier for the town to have to deal with because now we don't have to worry about it.
Okay, let's, we're still in your report, correct, Tom? You're muted.
Sorry, that was the last item on Elizabeth's email. I think we touched on Lois's photovoltaic question. Are there any other questions related to the documents review, the estimate? We also did have a kickoff meeting with Dwight Bolton to establish a community outreach meeting, and Scott, just correct me if I'm wrong, but we said December 19th or 20th?
Haven't settled on a date yet, but that week, before everyone goes away, just to drum up.
And that's for the bidders, right? That's to drum up the interest for the.
Not only bidders, but workers, right? It's gonna be a PLA, so gonna try to aim towards apprentices as well, up and coming workers, and particularly from the city of or the town of Bloomfield to see who's available and make them aware of what's going on.
What is the status of the PLA?
We have not started to negotiate it. We can add that to the list, but really we have not. We haven't had a lot of conversation with the union since its approval. But now we will start to become appropriate for us to establish that draft PLA for review, and we can start working on it.
Will it influence this outreach event, this negotiation?
No, we are proceeding as if the PLA is approved by the town council, and the workforce will be signatory to the unions.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Lois?
Few more questions on the budget document. In section 120000, there was a reference to furnishings, and it had Prosser at $4,620 and McMahon at $19,912. I thought that was a strange differential. I wondered if the numbers had gotten switched. And I didn't know what kind of furnishings were meant. It's at the very beginning of the document, before the two libraries are separated and treated separately.
Yep. I'm looking at the estimate detail. Lois, did you say it was 4620?
4620 for furnishings at Prosser and 19,912 at McMahon. And I just that seemed odd to me.
The 4620 is for 210 square feet of a walk-off entry mat. That seems okay. Let me double check the McMahon one. Hold on. And it looks like that is a combination of window treatments and an entrance mat. So I guess the question that just raised in my mind was the window treatments and Prosser.
And I'm coming to that in a minute.
Okay, so yeah, so it looks like the window treatments in Prosser were not included.
Right.
So yeah, that would be a question in my mind. Do we need window treatments on the curtain walls?
Well, that was section 1220.00, and it
Right.
talked about shades for McMahon, but the community room, I would think, would need darkening shades if you're going to do any movies. And I also think that the offices and the children's room, which face west in the afternoon, may require some kind of shades because that sun will come straight in there.
Yeah.
So Lois, I'm looking around a little more into the estimate, and in Prosser, I do see some motorized shades in the electrical section for $5,500. I see 4 of them. So there's something figured. I don't know if because we have such tall curtain walls, what's going on there, but it's something we got to look a little more into with the team.
Mm-hmm. Good point, Lois.
Then
Yes, I'm sorry, this is Diana, just to let them know that in Prosser, we included section 12, 2413 for the window shades for Prosser.
Yeah, I know you have a spec. I'm not sure what happened with the estimate, so we'll take a look at that.
Then there's an allowance for contaminated soil, and it seems to reference only the footprints at Riley and Prosser, I assume for the library and the Riley building. And I wonder what's going to happen if there is contaminated soil that needs to be dealt with. That's not just with the footprint.
So if I can step in on that one, Tom. The history that SLR has reported on, going back as far as before the library was there, it's only accounted for tanks that were on site and then dug up and removed on the north and east section of the new building. Okay. Currently, and we just received a draft report from GeoQuest, who's hired to oversee a soil management plan for Prosser. They've dug into it a little further. They agree with the data that's there, and they found a little bit of more missing information that they're piecing together so we can come up with a valid soil management plan. So one's right near the foundation. The other one is outside of it in the driveway coming in from Temple, I believe. But that's the data and history that we have from our initial ESA reports from SLI.
It just makes me very nervous when somebody suggests that the best thing to do is to mix it all up on the site until it meets spec.
Well, it depends, and that's what we're going to.
I'd like to know what the plan is for that when you know it.
Yeah, I understand, Lois, and I'm sure everyone will want to know that plan, and we'll definitely present that when we have it. And I think we're in the middle right now of determining what the best plan of action is now that we have a full understanding of what we're doing with the foundations, and we'll have even more of an understanding if that service road disappears and how all this plays into everything.
Okay. I also hope that we could take a closer look at the equipment in the staff lounges and in the cafes, because for example, I don't know why we need an under-counter ice machine for $950. That seems surprising to me. Maybe there's a reason, but I think we really ought to know why we're buying these things and what purpose they're going to serve. And then there were 2 coffee pots, I think, for $250 a piece. Maybe that's what they cost. But I think we need to look carefully at that. And then the last thing that I have, I'm concerned about the window shades, and especially in the community room, but we talked some months ago about what kind of air exchange system there will be in the building because of the issues around COVID, and that there may have been new standards established, and what standard we're going to apply for this building to make sure that it is above and beyond, so that we really are sure that people there are safe. Have we established a standard for that? I know that the standards that have been applied since COVID are higher than what is required by regulation. And I think that's where we ought to be trying to go.
Richard, is that something you can check on for us with RZ?
Yes, I'd be happy to follow up on that.
Thank you.
I think that does my list for now. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Lois, for that.
All right, thanks, Lois. Yep, all good stuff.
All right, other questions for the construction manager? I think now that we've heard from our design team and the construction manager, it would be appropriate to have a motion to authorize TSKP to proceed with construction documents.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Seconded by Lois. That was a hand, Lois. Thank you very much. Okay. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Anybody abstaining? Chair votes aye, so we pass unanimously. Thank you. All right. You're free to move about the cabin. So let's move on to our owner rep, Chip. It's all yours.
All right, thank you. First thing I want to talk about is the commissioning agent. We did receive 3 proposals for that. All 3 were invited based on their ability to perform the service, their history with work, both in town and in the area. And they were Stonehouse Group, Sustainable Engineering Solutions, or SES, and Van Zelm. There are 3 different paths that we can take for commissioning, each of which has a different lead impact. The first is just the base level of commissioning that is required for lead. There's no extra points for that. And that the basic scope there is to do design reviews. So they will take the design now and review that from a commissioning standpoint. They will put together, they'll set up initial meetings and hold commissioning meetings on a regular basis, developing specifications, putting together construction checklists on what they want to see from an installation standpoint. And then the subcontractors will provide that so they can keep an eye on making sure that the equipment's being installed properly. They will perform periodic site visits in order, again, to check the quality of the installations, develop functional tests for the various pieces of equipment, and witness testing, maintain a commissioning issues log. So any commissioning items that they recognize, they will keep in a log until those items are addressed, and then produce a final report. That's that base level that's required for commissioning it at all. The next component is the enhanced commissioning, which provides an extra 3 points for lead. So that's the path 1, which is the enhanced commissioning, which also adds on to that original scope. the review of submittals to make sure that they're complying with the specifications and commissioning expectations, reviewing and verifying owners, the operating and maintenance manuals at the end of the project as part of closeout, verifying and witnessing the training of the operations, of the occupants and operators of the buildings, and then doing a review of the building operations at a 10-month period after substantial completion. So that's the enhanced that provides an additional 3 points. Additionally, the option 1, path 2 adds monitoring to the commissioning process, where they will identify points to add monitoring to make sure that the systems are operating as expected, are maintaining the proper sequence of operations, and that monitoring occurs for a year. That gives you an additional point. So it's 3 years for the enhanced, 3 points for the enhanced commissioning, 4 points for the adding the monitor to it as well. And finally is the envelope commissioning, option 2, that's an additional 2 points. And that is, doing all of the commissioning items we've talked about before the envelope of the building. So, so making sure that the insulation and air vapor barriers and all of those items that are components of the exterior structure of the building are appropriate and being installed appropriately. They run tests such as pull tests on the air vapor barrier to make sure that that's adhering as expected. Again, the periodic reviews on site to make sure that the insulation, spray, and any of those components are being installed properly. At this point, I think we need to select a commissioning agent in order to meet those lead points. Initially right now, we need to make sure we get that base level. Those additional items we can wait a little bit on because they are down the road a little bit, but we do have pricing now for each of those components. In the budget right now, there's the original budget had $40,000 for commissioning. That base level, Van Zelm is at $44,000, SES is at $55,008, and Stonehouse is at $79,500 roughly.
Are we able to bring up your summary sheet?
Sure.
Everybody can see it?
Yep.
I know it was distributed as part of the meeting package as well. While you're doing that, let's go to some questions. Bob Berman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to make sure I understand this correctly. When I look at, okay, the total fee is taking in, looks to me like it's doing alternate 2 and alternate 3, not alternate 1 and 2.
Alternate 1 is a component of alternate 2, so
Okay,
it's an either or. You can't do alternate 2 without also doing alternate 1.
So does alternate 2 include alternate 1 in it?
Yes.
All right, that's what I meant. So it looks to me like when I look at the total, for instance, Van Zelm at 77,556, that's taking the 44,160 and 18,906 and 14,490.
Correct. Correct. That alternate 2 price includes the price of alternate 1 as well as the incremental cost of the monitoring.
Right. So it's really, if I call those column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, it's 1, 3, and 4.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Lois?
I remember that when we did the schools, somebody was taking pictures all the time as the construction proceeded, so that we'd know where any problems were later if we had to solve them. Is that something the commissioning agent does, or is somebody else doing that already?
No, that's not part of commissioning. There are companies that do that, and we've certainly used them on jobs, but that is separate from this. there are specialists that come in periodically and photograph everything and give you a nice website that you can go to find photos along the way, but that would not be part of the commissioning.
Thank you.
I mean, we will have some record photographs to show general progress from downs, but their purpose is not forensic. Okay. Patrick?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Chip, just a few things that I was wondering. So are you saying that we don't have to do the alternates, or we do? Like, what do the lead points get you? I mean, is it something with the state? Is it?
Well, we're trying to meet LEED certification, silver certification, and at this point, we don't know, and the lead consultant doesn't know exactly where all the points are going to come from until we get, to CDs and have some of those things flushed out more. So these alternates provide the ability to add up to 6 additional points, up to 6 points if we end up needing them. I mean, from a good practices standpoint, certainly the more commissioning, the more reliability you have in the building. And it's something that I think should be considered, but that's not a decision we need to make now until we do hear from the lead consultant as to what points are needed. And then we can, review whether or not we want to undertake either of these alternates.
Okay. When I was looking through all of these proposals on the Van Zelm, I found some discrepancies with your chart and their pricing. So for alternate 2, option 1, path 2, I found the total hours to just be 45 and the cost to be 6,210.
Right. So I did verify with Van Zelm. They kind of did what Bob was thinking at first, is they only added the incremental cost for alternate 2. So the true cost of alternate 2 is their alternate 1 plus alternate 2.
Okay.
And so I made that correction because in the documents we do have the ability to, understand, those kinds of errors. Okay. It's not even an error, it's just the way they looked at it versus the others. But the true cost, and I did verify that, of alternate 2 is the 18,906, which is the sum of alternate 1 and alternate 2 in their proposal.
Okay, that was a bit confusing. Same with alternate 3 for SES. I saw 23.7 in their pricing proposal, and we have 15 even.
Oh, so maybe I put maybe that's an error on my part.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I just wanted to bring it up. I wasn't sure if I was not reading it properly, like you just explained about.
That's an error on my part.
Copy over error, yeah.
Grab the wrong piece. So their proposal is actually another $8,700 higher. So it's over. It's 93,000.
Right. Yeah, because I added them up too.
Yep. No, you're correct. I do see that now. That's my error.
Okay. So is your recommendation then, of course, the Van Zelm is the Van Zelm, I guess. Van Zelm, they're within closest to our budget price.
Yep.
The only thing I would say about them is they did work at 330 Park, but when you look at who they proposed to be on this project, nobody who worked on 330 Park is on this project. So that, I thought that was interesting, because you would think we'd want to have somebody who was familiar with the town, familiar with, our processes. Why didn't they, unless there's the person just isn't available, but
right.
I thought it was interesting that no one on their team was from 330, had worked on the 330 Park project. But I mean, they did do multiple libraries, which I thought was good, and their expenses were pretty low. So I thought that was good. The others like SES, I didn't really see any library experience on their proposal. It seemed like they did a lot of schools and office health facilities, but no libraries.
I mean, the reality from a commissioning standpoint is you're testing systems. And whether it's a library or a school
It's
or
all
a
the same, right?
police building, there is parameters that the system is supposed to meet. And
Gotcha.
the commissioning tests to make sure it's meeting those parameters. So that's less of a concern than it would be on your engineer, your mechanical engineer. It's gonna be more important to have that library experience than it is your commissioning agent.
Okay.
But it is nice to have anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I thought it would be nice if, Van Zelm would have put someone on the team who was, had worked at 330 Park.
Yeah, and again, from a commissioning standpoint, there's not a lot of interaction with anyone in the town that is going to matter. Certainly the biggest interaction would be at the end on the training and making sure that the operators and whoever is maintaining the equipment, again, that's if alternate one, the enhanced commissioning is accepted, then that's the biggest interaction. But from a day-to-day standpoint, they're interacting with me, with the contract, the construction manager and the subcontractors more than anything.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, thank you. So I think for what you need tonight, it would just be, you're just looking to get the commissioning base scope approved.
That's the minimum we need. If the committee feels like they want to approve all of the alternates at this point, we certainly can, but those, as we move forward with selecting them, we will lock in the pricing and can add those at a later date once we have our DDs. I'm sorry, our construction documents and more control over the budget and are aware of what we need from a lead standpoint.
Makes sense. And we probably would want alternate 3, which would include option 2 plus the envelope commissioning to get the take full advantage of the lead.
Right. Well, alternate 3 is independent. So you get 2 points for alternate 3 but you don't have to do alternate 1 or 2 to get 3.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it sounds like, that was 2 extra points for the envelope commissioning.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to go through all of that.
Yep.
Yeah, and thank you, Patrick, for being so thorough with that. Ava?
Yeah, thanks. When I heard you saying we should start with the basic and then see about the rest, I thought it might be worth pointing out that even though this is a philosophical issue that's important to us, there's also the very real practical consideration that if we do not meet LEED Silver, the state will not give us the $1 million construction grant because it's absolutely required. So I just thought that was something that it's kind of important. Yes, the difference may be several $1,000s here, but $1 million difference is large. So I just wanted to put that in. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for that reminder. It's not optional. We will be LEED Silver or better. Bob Berman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I understand what Chip is saying. We can go ahead and do the base now, lock in the prices for each of the other 3 choices, and later decide which ones of those we're gonna actually exercise. Is that correct, Chip?
Yes. Yep. I mean, I think all 3 are definitely worthwhile from a operational standpoint. But we don't have to fully make that decision now because, again, if we're running into if we have the lead points without it and we're running into budget issues, this is an area that you could save on. But ultimately, for the best operation of the building, you want to do alternate 2 and alternate 3 as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
yeah.
Lois?
I was impressed with Sustainable Engineering Solutions presentation. I thought it was very clear, step by step by step, what they would do. And although there is some differential in cost, it seems to me that we would get what we paid for. So I would, if we were going to recommend one tonight, I would recommend them. And I also think that it's worth, because we really, the money is very important, the $1 million. The points are very important, but the functioning of the building over the long term is the most important thing. So I think we ought to do all three options, and I think we should do it with sustainable engineering solutions.
Okay, thanks, Lois. Just from the budget standpoint, I'm pretty sure we included, I mean, our original budget.
Right, the original budget was 40. We did up that for the analysis on the DDs. So we do have it fully funded in the budget estimate that has been presented.
Our current budget estimate includes
Is including the full value
of, well, it doesn't include the 170, does it?
No, I think we included I think we based it on the mid-range, the sustainable engineering.
We did. And I should say the town has done business with SES, but not for commissioning. So we've had a positive experience with them as well.
Chip, did you have a recommendation?
I mean, the way I look at it is all three of them are very qualified for the job. All three of them have the experience. All three of them have the staffing. So, if with all three being able to do the job, I always feel that taking the low cost is appropriate. So that would be my recommendation, but, certainly, SES or Stonehouse both could do the job, as well.
Okay, questions for Chip? Anything else? Would somebody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I will, Mr. Chairman. I move that we hire Van Zelm Engineers, our commissioning agent, starting off with the base scope with locking in the pricing for the other options that we go ahead and exercise if we need to along the way.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ike. Further discussion? Don't see any hands. Call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any nays? Anybody abstaining? All right, we are unanimous then. Chip, I thank you very much for your good analysis and good work there. Anything else, Chip?
Only just that the lease, was forwarded to the landlord for the McMahon, or not McMahon, the Woodbury Mall space, and waiting for a response from them. And now the next focus will be finalizing and moving for the project.
Okay. Any other questions for Chip before we go on? Elizabeth?
Mr. Chair?
Well,
Well,
let me get to
question.
Let me get to Elizabeth and then Patrick.
Oh, yeah, no, go right ahead.
Oh, I'll defer to Patrick.
Okay, this is real quick, but I just wanted to ask Chip if, thank you, Elizabeth. Ask Chip if he confirmed that what the deputy mayor said, the town council did in fact approve forwarding the lease to the town plan and zoning commission. Do we know for sure that that's on their agenda for tomorrow? Because
It is.
It
It
is?
is. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. I didn't see that agenda, so I just wanted to make sure because, we can't miss any milestones.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have Elizabeth. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Elizabeth?
Yes, I wanted to formally request that Public Works leadership and BPL leadership see a copy of the working lease.
I think that can be accommodated.
Thank you. And I also wanted to confirm that we are going to have a final report that outlines all of the locations looked at. That includes the address, the size, the cost, and any other helpful information that will show our work. And also on Monday night, the one thing that was not clearly expressed to the town council was that the size of the swing space is very small, and it will not be enough to serve the needs for our community. So there is still more work to be done. And I feel that that should have been expressed. I also feel that I should have been asked to be a part of that conversation in front of council, so that council has a full picture of what to expect. As we know that there will be residents in Bloomfield who are not happy with the current choice. And I just want to make sure that we're able to adequately explain ourselves and hopefully still find a more complete solution. Thank you.
Thank you. I, for one, am very disappointed to hear that at this late date. However, I stand by what the building committee has recommended based on all the information we had received. So here we are today, and I believe the council was informed that any other spaces that may be considered are just that, they may still be considered. Let's go to Bob, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You say it's not, let's find out exactly what you mean by it's not an adequate space, Elizabeth. What do you intend, what would you intend to do if you had much more space? And why is this not adequate space?
It's 3,000 square feet, and we will not be able to fit in the majority of our staff, the majority of our collections. We're going to have super slim collections. It's not enough to fully address the digital divide. And to be clear, I know that we have very slim pickings, but this is the best of bad options, essentially. And I want to make sure that the council is completely aware of that. Is this what we want? No. Do we understand that this might be the only option? Yes. But that being said, it's going to be my staff and the library board and town council who will be dealing with any blowback from the community. Hence the request that we have a report that we can share with the public should concerns come up, which I do not doubt that they will. As we know, Wittenberry Mall, there's been some public outcry about the condition of it. It was played out very publicly on Facebook. The mayor commented, and there's more discussions happening. I know that that was some of the comments that were made by councilors on Monday night. So I do think that this body should be very aware of the agreement we're going into for at least 22 months. 22 months is most likely going to be the short end of how long we're there, assuming that everything goes well with construction. So that being said, I want to make sure, and I hope that everybody understands that this is not the best case scenario. There's many concerns about Wittenberry Mall, and I hope that everybody is aware of them. And I am sorry if I have not expressed that enough. So I want to make sure that I am formally on the record saying that, and that we do need to continue looking for other options and a better way specifically to maintain more access to address the digital divide over the next 2+ years of the road we're going down. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. I, for one, hope very much that you and your staff will make the best of this situation and not make the worst of this situation as we go forward. Please.
Yes, and we always do, as was demonstrated throughout COVID-19. We were the only library in the state of Connecticut to maintain service. And of course, service is the #1 priority for my staff and the library board. And we will do everything in our power to make sure that we keep that conduit of service alive. Hence the reason why we are partnering with some of the schools. We've already, made a presence in the high school, as Mr. White can attest to, and will continue to leverage our partnerships and perform outreach and have pop-up locations. But again, that being said, it's not the same as a permanent location that is larger than what we are looking at. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy?
I just wanted to remind people on the building committee that all of our minutes as well as our videos very well document all the conversations, all of the decisions, and people are always free to revert to those for any additional information they need. I also want to remind people on this committee that the focus of the request to the town council was based on this committee's recommendation that we enter into a lease for swing space. And anything that we put in there that takes away from that recommendation becomes a distraction and could cause a delay. And the delay means we don't keep on schedule. And if we don't keep on schedule, the project becomes more expensive. So, there's a lot of factors that go into things. And I just want to remind people what the goal is. And the goal is to get the library into space so that they can continue to operate during the time of construction. And there's a very tight timeline that has to be made in order to do that. So thank you.
Ava, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that we have already had, some of us have had questions from counselors regarding this space. We need to make for the counselors absolutely clear that while, yes, this lease is something that they need to move forward on and in a timely manner, that there will be repercussions if we do not find additional space. We owe them that explanation. They are already asking about that. So I really don't think having this conversation is a distraction. I think it's a critical component of the process. It's the duty of every public board, commission, committee, etc. in the state of Connecticut to make every effort to ensure that everything we do is fully open to the public and to all the other public bodies. And I think that's what we're doing. Thanks.
Okay, let's go on to committee reports. Elizabeth with outreach. I'm assuming that I know you guys haven't met recently.
We have not.
Yeah,
We
I
have
would say that and we had always talked about this kind of milestone point here as maybe a time to put something together and brag to the public.
Yes, agreed. And we are getting all those questions. So I know that we keep talking about the timeline document. We would like to create some visuals that include the start of the construction date, the proposed end of the construction date, moving in, moving out, all of those types of things. So yes, I think some further outreach is ready to commence.
Okay, maybe would it be too much to ask when we meet in 2 weeks to take a look at some draft or some package that might be going out? Does that sound reasonable? Before the holidays?
We can try to do that, yes.
Okay. I'm just thinking out loud here, to get something out sooner than later. Thank you. And technology programming, Leah, anything for us?
No report at this time.
Okay, I think we're in pretty good shape technology wise with our scope and budgets as we go into CDs. that's going to get developed further, so there'll be information for you guys to review and comment on soon. Okay, so Nancy, approval of purchases. What do we
The
have?
approval of the purchase was for the commissioning agent, so we've already taken care of that.
Okay, so we just have invoices?
Yes. So the first one is invoice number 002 for Downs Construction for pre-construction services in the amount of $19,648.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Ike. Seconded by,
Second.
second by Mr. Berman. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any nays? Anybody abstaining? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next.
The next one is for Collier's Project Engineers, invoice number 799696 for $8,560 for 40.56 completion of the design phase services.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Ike, seconded by Lois. Thank you, Lois. Any questions, comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Anybody abstaining? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next.
Next is TSKP Studio, invoice number 220103-8. This is for $13,818.60 for 10% completion of construction documents plus reimbursables that were needed for inland wetlands and TPZ.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Ike, seconded by Jesse. Get you a second. Thank you. Discussion, questions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Anybody abstaining? Motion passes. Thank you very much. And one more, right?
One more. This is also for TSKP Studio, invoice number 200802-11. This one is for $42,606.26 for 10% completion of construction documents plus reimbursables needed for inland wetlands and TPZ.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Ike, seconded by
Second.
Patrick. Thank you very much. Questions, comments?
Comment, Nancy, it also includes IT design on there, I believe.
I'm sorry, say it again.
It includes IT design. How did
Yes, both. Yes, both of the TSK.
Oh, yes, that's part of their basic services. So yes, you're correct. It includes the IT design.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Anybody abstaining? Motion passes. Thank you.
That's it for invoices.
All right, we paid a lot of people. That's good. They'll show up again. Meetings, we've got November 30th is our next regular meeting. And then we've got December 14th. That's our schedule, and planning and zoning tomorrow night. Comments from the committee.
Mr. Chairman, this is Robert Ike. I just have a question. I was at a Republican Town Committee meeting last night, and someone brought up that the town council approved a project labor agreement for the library project. I'm not sure what that is. Is that true?
Yes.
It is true. It's being negotiated with our construction manager.
Thank you. And then December 14th, I'll be in Costa Rica. So I'll be coming from Costa Rica.
Well, we expect to see you, right?
Yeah, I'll be there via Zoom.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Again, I want to thank the Public Works Department and our town engineer. They really have gone, very far to help us, and will continue to do so. Patrick.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real two quick comments. First one about town engineer Jonathan. I know he's super busy and he's super great at what he does. I'm just wondering, I wanted to suggest, can we have him, or can we ask Jonathan to look through the entire design document? Because I think just having another set of eyes, I don't know if he's had that opportunity to review the entire design documents. I know we've talked to him about a few things, but I'm not sure. I'm sure his workload and his plate is full, but I thought it might be a good idea to just have the town engineer take a look through the documents.
That's a very good idea. I mean, he's certainly gone through the site packages.
Yeah.
Because that's what's, goes to planning and zoning. So he's done that, and those are further along in the design process than the rest of it, but we can certainly ask him.
Yeah, I mean, I just think having another set of eyes from the town. The only other comment I have is back to the lights in the Riley parking lot. I just hope that if we do put in the lights and we do use Eversource, which I think we have done for the town square or the town green, I would just hope that we would use the same light posts so that we keep a consistency with what we already have on the town green. We use the same light posts that are there in the Riley parking lot or anywhere around the building itself. So that way, I think that would probably be part of the entire, I know town green is still up for additional work to be done on it. And, we did recently put those lights in. So I hope that we would utilize the same style, the same type of light posts so that we keep things looking integrated and consistent all around the town center. The only other thing
I can tell you, Jonathan made a plea for the same thing, so he
good.
recommended that.
And Nancy, the only other thing I want to throw out now that I'm thinking of it is, at one point we were talking about working with the state on having traffic circles, roundabouts at that intersection. And I don't know where that's, what has happened with that. I think it kind of got stopped for a while. I don't know if it's been picked back up by the state, but my concern is, again, talking about the drop-off section. If those roundabouts were going to move forward, that drop-off section may not really be there, because the roundabouts would be in that intersection. So I just would think we should just confirm whether or not the state is still intending to.
Nancy, you want to take that?
Yeah, SLR, who's actually TSKP's consultant, did reach out to the state and confirm that those roundabouts were not planned to happen. I think the traffic count was too high, is what I recall. They have not formally closed the project, and the scuttlebutt is they don't close it because that way they can still continue to receive federal money for their work, but they consider the roundabouts, at least the way they were designed, not to be something that was going to be workable for those for that intersection. At least a double roundabout. I don't think they've done any other work according to SLR.
Okay, good. Because we were going to actually need two roundabouts, because there's the main intersection, then there's the intersection with Wintonberry. Okay, other than that, I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and hope everybody enjoys some time with friends and family. So enjoy. Thank you.
Before you joined the committee, we had an extensive inclusion of those roundabouts.
Okay.
In the plan, and but they died. So
okay, good. Well, just tell me to be quiet the next time.
No. It's a good point. And the people in the public should know that too, what's going on. So appreciate it. Other committee comments? Elizabeth?
Yes. The state library is in conversation with us to ensure that the McMahon-Wittenberry Library Grant makes it to the December Bond Commission hearing. The library staff is working on what we're calling BPL Everywhere initiatives while we are out of our current buildings, which includes expanded hours, an expanded laptop hotspot loaner program, a more intentional, far-reaching digital literacy initiative, BPL in the schools, BPL weekly pop-ups around town, and more intensive staff trainings on things that have kind of been sidelined. The town manager and I attended the state library program yesterday at Westport Library. Westport completed a $20 million renovation just before COVID, and it's a 50,000 square foot building. They had 500,000 people come in the first year after completion, which ended up equaling out more than twice what they saw coming in the library before the renovation. The diversity of use has greatly improved, especially with high school students and professional types. They're currently dealing with capacity challenges. They have a lot of meeting rooms and all of them are used all the time. So they told us to be ready for that. They also made the very interesting design choice to not have a teen space. The idea is that the whole entire library is for teens, and it's been working very well for them. They also went very hard on soundproofing. Every aspect of the library has soundproofing, and they also have that, as we do in Prosser, that ledge where people have study tables overlooking the bigger area. And they actually have soundproofing that goes halfway up between where the ledge is and the ceiling, just to help with the soundproofing of that area. They also took our approach to everything being flexible to the next level. So not only are all shelves movable, all their tables, all their chairs, and they move the space around quite frequently. They still have sound being an issue in the meeting rooms, and they're trying to figure out how to better soundproof the meeting rooms. They said to make sure that we are very intentional with thinking about how to open and lock doors, both doors for the public and doors for staff. And they said the tech plan was the most important part in terms of design. And very interestingly, they did this renovation pre-COVID. And since then, as we know, libraries have become even more tech forward in their approach. So they cautioned us to be very intentional with how we are planning technology. They also put in an ionization system, and that's something they're so happy with. The air quality is excellent in that building. And as was discussed by Richard earlier, they admit to making some landscaping mistakes. Most specifically, they can't manage the upkeep of the landscaping. So they said to be careful about that and to simplify it whenever possible. They also said they did not put enough storage. And I know that we're working very closely with the TSKP team to make sure that we have enough storage. So we're hoping that will not be a problem. They also talked about keeping up staff morale during the swing space time. And most interesting for this committee will be to know that their biggest problem was that the building committee hated the architect. And I said, well, we don't have that problem here in Bloomfield. So that was nice. And that was it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for attending that in the report. So if we build it, they will come. That's one of the important things, right? Other committee comments? I don't see any hands. So Nancy, do we have members of the public that would like to speak?
Linda Pagani.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm glad that the committee voted to approve the wood product facade at the McMahon Wittenberry branch. I think it looks more modern and I think it's more inviting. So that was good. And then the other thing, just since lighting was just brought up by Patrick, I hope, and maybe this is a standard now, but I hope the exterior lights at both locations will be dark night sky compliant so that we can minimize any light pollution. I'm not sure what, I know when the town green was redone, I was surprised that the lights were not dark night sky compliant. So that would just be my real strong recommendation. for the exterior lighting. And maybe that's a construction standard now. I don't know. I hope so, but just so that we can minimize any light pollution. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Okay, we're done.
All right. Well, I want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. And we'll see you on the other side of that. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Ike, seconded by Lois. All in favor, say goodbye. Aye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yes, yes.
Thanks, you too, everyone.
We are adjourned. Thank you,
Take care.
everyone.
Thank you.